Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today discussing one of the most pressing issues in today's America, which is going to be in relation to our last video, having to do with Gen Z being co-opted by the liberal left and paid operative shills, older than me by the way, that are ultimately trying to usurp the rights of our TikTok youth, people that are getting purveyed upon on their For You page, on the algorithm, being basically boosted, astroturfed even, by the liberal elite, basically to indoctrinate the youth into supporting Joe Brandon. Kind of crazy, isn't it, guys? Anyway, the point being is that, there's a new push for Joe Breezy onto the airwaves, and we're going to be A-logging, and that's a key term for people that don't know, to basically make fun of these lol cows, which includes Chris Morey, which is a guy who's like 21, so he's like 2 years older than me, and then you have Harry Sisson, who's a year older than me, he's 20. The point being is that the guys are older. They keep bragging about, oh, we're so young, we're the pretty boys. It's like, well, I'm younger and smarter than both of you, and I'm more conservative, so it's like, okay, well, where do we actually land? And so we're going to be reacting to this half-hour video to ascertain what really is the truth and what they're saying, and we're going to be roasting them. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to have Tim Dillon, who's like this centrist, I don't really care about him, but he's like this overweight comedian. Think about like James Corden, but not as famous, I suppose, is the analog. It's like a cross of James Corden, the night show host. Okay, so James Corden ex Ethan Ralph, and you make a lol cow comedian YouTuber, but ultimately let's keep playing this.
I was on Twitter the other day. I was scrolling on Twitter, and I try not to do that, but I do. It's addictive. It's not as addictive as TikTok, which is the problem. The TikTok algorithm, they say, is the most addictive. But Twitter is, now it's a little more fun now than it was. It's always been crazy. But so I go through it, and I came across these kids that were yelling about Biden. And Twitter's, they're like young dudes screaming about Biden, about that they love Biden. It's hilarious. It almost felt like trolling, but it wasn't. That they love Biden and that Gen Z is going to elect Biden and all that stuff. And usually on Twitter, it's the little Nazi kids that are always chirping about how like the band, their band teacher made them trans again or something else, which I don't know.
How's that Nazi
but it's usually that's the contingent that I see a lot. I guess maybe that's who follows me or whatever. But I saw these kids and I thought it was like a joke. And I've been trying to get David Hogg on the show. We tried to get David Hogg on the show. David Hogg will not come on the show. I don't know what he's afraid of, or maybe he just loathes me. I don't know. But I'm watching these freaks, right? And they're just screaming and yelling.
This guy's wearing a jacket in May, by the way. He probably lives in LA, so think about that, okay?
And I have to say, I'm pleasantly surprised that they
real American patriots wear polo shorts.
Yeah, of course.
Or shirts. Sorry, my bad.
And you're here, and you're doing it.
Yeah.
And you were told not to do it by a lot of people.
Yeah, that's right. But just having fun, gotta have fun.
What's the deal?
We cut him off.
Because everybody says you're like paid by the DNC. Everybody says you're shills, right? Or a lot of people, not everybody, but there's a group of people on the internet saying that because you guys scream at your phone, you have very passionate videos about that you love Biden, who's a man of what, 70 years your senior? How old is he?
He's 80 now, I think.
He's 80. Can you move the mics closer if you're going to be that quiet? I mean, you've never been that quiet in your life.
Oh, sorry,
yeah.
okay, loud now.
All you do is yell.
Yeah,
And this is like, now you're like soft-spoken and quiet and considered. All you've done is scream.
Why are you wearing glasses on your show indoors,
So
bud?
Biden's what? How old is he? 80?
He's like 80, I think.
So he's 80.
Yeah.
And you're how old?
I'm 20.
So he's 60 years.
That's right.
Older than you. But okay, so a lot of people in the Trump world, he's older too.
Yeah.
Are you guys paid DNC shills?
No, that's just like a conspiracy that's been crafted on Twitter specifically in the recent
It's
days.
a conspiracy.
That we've
Are you
received money from the
fucking
DNC.
kidding me?
We've
It's
never
real.
received money from the DNC. If the DNC was paying people, we should be first in line with
Well,
how
you
much we
should get
promote
money.
Biden.
Yeah. Because
Broke DNC, where your money at? Okay, let's get this money in. The DNC has a ton of donor billionaire money. They, Soros, a lot of things. Obviously, the GOP has like AIPAC and those sort of like multinational institutions. We won't get into that for the sake of the topic here at hand. But the point being is that to assert that these guys are not getting paid, that they're not reaping benefits from doing this monetarily, even if not directly, but just implicitly by what they're shilling for, obviously it's very clear that they're operatives. And, even beyond that, think about it. There's no other young people shilling for Joe Biden like these people are. So it's evident that they're getting paid to some capacity. And even beyond that, you look at, there's a plethora of Gen Z Republican people that are, MAGA oriented. And they're not getting paid for the most part. Even if they're making profit off of like their like grift or whatever, they're not making profit from Donald Trump, okay? Whereas it's the opposite in the case of Joe Biden because people tend not to like Joe Breezy. And it's, too bad for him, right? So yeah, no, they're probably lying. And even if they're not, they're cringe anyway. So let's keep going.
you put out all of these videos all the time. You should get money.
Yeah.
I mean, go get money. If you're not getting money, go get money.
And we received $0 from the DNC for it. And I don't know, it's just been a crazy couple of days as you've seen. There's been 70 million views on this story. And for us, it's just a little frustrating because real issues going on. There's actual things affecting real Americans.
Who cares?
We're trying to talk about that stuff. We're not trying to talk about the DNC paying people, which is not even real.
Yeah. When did you get into this? Why do you care so much? I've always found that a declining society, and I think the great Anna Hassan of Red Scare said this, a society really starts to crumble when women and young people get involved in politics.
Real.
Politics should be for kind of, boring men in gray suits. And when women and young people feel the need, it's like the Hitler Youth, right? When women and young people get involved, it's a problem.
That's actually a good analogy. I like that.
You keep screaming about that Gen Z should be involved. Why should Gen Z get involved in anything?
Well, to be honest, like two creepy men approached me and knocked on my door 5 months ago, and they were like, "We'll give you X amount of money."
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I just feel like Gen Z's, we've never seen
all.
America in like real peace, right? We were born after 9/11. We got into the war on terror. We've had like 3 recessions, right? And so like a lot of us are just very passionate because it feels like we're getting fucked all the time, just fucked.
All I can
That's
say
such a
is
cope. And oh wow, we can curse, guys. We're so cool. Like inevitably, bro. Like okay, are there not people that have been screwed by the recession? Even more so, in fact, that are millennials, people that were graduating college that were like 24 years old in 2009. Those people that are like 37 now, what do you think that those people would be more affected by the recession? But this guy who's like 21 is going to say, oh, well, I was like 6 years old when it happened. So therefore, like, no, come on, shut the fuck up. And, again, talking to these jokesters, it's like, well, honestly, let's think about it this way. We're discussing an issue where, again, we have a generation of people that are maligned by, bad, globalists, whatever, neoliberal policies. And what the response is, a bunch of right-wing youths that are being grassroots fed into the organizations in the Republican Party, not the Democrats. The Democrats don't really have this youth turnout. In fact, they have the majority of the youth on their side. And so you would think there'd be like an unrelenting mass of people for Joe Biden on TikTok. In fact, it's the opposite, where it's mostly a bunch of like, gays and whatnot that are just defending themselves, socially and promoting themselves. They're pro-Joe Biden, coincidentally, but they're not advocating for Joe Barresi himself. Whereas you have these 2 white guys that otherwise would be kind of normal and kind of gay, but inevitably kind of, typical, and they're over here shilling for Joe Biden. So it's obvious that, oh, well, we were raised in the recession. That has nothing to do with it. I was raised in the recession as well. Does that really mean anything? Did that animate me towards politics? No, it really didn't, because it was before I had a cogent political opinion. That was right around the time I voted for McCain in the 2008 election in kindergarten. Okay, don't blame me.
For the school shooting thing.
Of course.
I'll listen to you guys on that. All the other issues, I'm not willing to listen to you guys because I understand that you are getting shot in school.
Yeah.
And many of you can't handle that. You're not tough enough to handle that. So I understand why that bothers you. But like, do you understand how your content can be cringy when like I'm looking at it and you're literally like, Gen Z's gonna step on your fucking throat. Joe Biden's like, you understand that why do you choose to do it like that?
I don't know. It's bad. Like in hindsight, some of it's very cringe, right? But like, I don't know.
What do you mean hindsight? You are currently making this sort of content, dipshit. It's cringe, as if like you're 30 years old. Oh, I did that 10 years ago. No, this was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm just a cringy guy. Like I'm just passionate. I just turn on the camera and I just start screaming about what I'm passionate about and I just post.
Yeah, I think like, trying to like convey to the audience the severity of the issue and the passion we have around it. So like I've screamed a lot about like AR-15s and how I think we should ban them. Like the fact
that makes people really upset.
It makes people really upset.
Older people get really angry and then they send you photos with their AR-15.
Yeah, and then I've gotten a lot of people telling me that they've bought more AR-15s because of me. Like they're just free.
Felt to get it.
Sisson's driving sales of AR-15.
Yeah, you're actually making the whole situation
I'm
worse.
making the gun
making it worse.
Okay. Produce you a lot of money.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I just like as you said, like on school shootings, for example, like we've said this in our videos that our generation and young people are like traumatized by gun violence.
Sure.
We can't go to schools, movie theaters, malls without thinking, am I next?
But you understand when
nobody's thinking
that the guns are not only part of their culture,
Nobody
but it's the
cares.
way that they feel like they protect their family. And I think there's
again, and this is just like some more cope about like, oh, I can't go to school. It's like, then why are you going to school then? You're obviously just virtue signaling and everybody can see through it. It's kind of like this moral panic that they had, like even 5 years into like after 9/11, where George Bush is still talking about 9/11 in like 2006. And it's like, well, we kind of get the point, okay? So it's kind of like emotional blackmail up to a certain point here with the school shootings. Because if we're seeing that school attendance is the same as before, and again, if people were getting shot that often, they'd just like, even if they were suspended for truancy, they would still not go to school because they're scared. In fact, they're still going to school at the normal rates. In fact, because again, the shootings aren't that common and people are just blowing gassing each other up. Inevitably, what you see is people like Harry over here who is saying like, oh my God, I'm so scared. It's not a valid concern and you should stop talking about it because I don't care, frankly. So get over it. And then with respect to other stuff that he's mentioned, I even forgot. It's like, these talking points are so bad, I forget.
Should be more restrictions on guns too. I agree with you. But there are people, for example, that feel that those guns are necessary to secure their freedom, in the sense that look what a few years ago we had riots in most major American cities that for 2 months went on. We had crazy shit going on, and then we had people saying let's defund and abolish police, so that the idea of people having weapons and even AR-15s. A lot of people think that it may be necessary because things might degenerate further.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's like catastrophizing, the United States, right? I think like
that's the new name of the show. That is my show. Catastrophizing the United States.
Yeah, it's trademark. It seems a little extreme. Like, why can't we just start with like 95% of Americans agree with like universal background checks? Like, why can't we just start there?
I'm not opposed to more regulations and restrictions. I'd have to get into the weeds of what they would be, but I don't necessarily disagree with you there. I disagree with a lot of the other stuff that you guys.
Dude, this is a typical white people thing. And again, you know, I can point this out because I'm like on the outside looking in. And it's like these white people, even if they're Republican leaning, they'll be like, well, look, I can agree with this, but stop it here. And that's the wrong sort of logic. I can agree to gay marriage, but this trans stuff is too far. No. We're going to put the law down where it belongs, okay? I'm going to say, you know what? I should have AR-15s. We should be allowed, you know, for citizens that are non-felons to own machine guns even. Oh, but what if you need nuclear weapons? Is that legal? Who cares? Stop buying into their arguments. I'm not going to buy a nuke, okay? People are struggling to pay with their student loans, much less a fucking nuke. But they're going over here like, oh my God, what about privatized grenade launchers? What about a bazooka? Who cares? Let's just get machine guns back, okay? Return to tradition. I want the Rambo arsenal. How about that? Everything included, okay? So let's get into these facts. But instead, people like Tim Dillon over here are going to be like, I'm okay with background checks. No, how about no? If anything, my compromise for gun control would be to basically create a culture, and this wouldn't be into law, but I want better profiling. I want people that sell guns to say, you know what, you're some emo 20-year-old that looks suicidal. I'm not going to give you a gun, okay? You're a transvestite or something. I'm not going to let you have a gun. You look gay. I'm not going to get you a gun. You look like you're about to kill your wife. I'm not going to get you a gun. If you look like you have saggy pants and face tattoos, you're not going to be able to buy a gun. I don't care if you have a clean record. You look guilty as hell. So I'm just going to be, you know, we'll sell guns to Urkel. We're going to sell guns to Will Smith. We're not going to sell guns to people that look like they're going to commit a crime. And so, again, you can refuse to sell guns for any reason legally right now, but we ought to create a culture where we do not sell guns to people that are looking weird. And again, if you might say, well, somebody like a Mormon or somebody who's straight-laced for whatever reason might buy the gun firstly and then sell it secondhand to somebody else. I mean, there's no real way to legislate around that. So inevitably, that's just something you have to deal with. And, you know, when we have the privilege or the right to bear arms, people will die as a consequence. But I honestly don't even care. I think we should be allowed to ride Bugattis. Well, I mean, if you're speeding, you might kill someone. Okay, so what? Get over it. We need a right where we can kill people by accident. And that's part of life. And that's part of being a human being.
Say, but not all of it. 100%. I don't disagree with every, like, I've always said if I spoke to ISIS, I would agree with a lot of what they said. If I sat down with ISIS and they made points, I go, well, that one makes sense.
God.
I get it. But why did you become so impassioned about politics at a young age? You've been making videos, Harry, for how long?
Like 3 years now.
And it's literally been 5 months for me.
And it's been 5 months for you.
5 months.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, as young people, we're more connected to the world than ever. You know, we have our phones and there's news everywhere. And just reading a lot of it, I'm like, I feel like I can't just like sit here and do nothing. Like I feel like I have to get involved. And, you know, what's the best way to get involved right now and make a message heard? Social media.
And yeah, I mean, it's like at the end of the day, I don't think enough people realize like it's all Trump, right? Harry and I, like very much a lot of this political field is just, we all looked at the TV at like 15 years old. We saw Donald Trump lying all the time, 24/7. He's a freak. And we just got super passionate about like, this is not the direction we can go. And so at the end of the day, like it's actually Trump's fault.
Do you not think that most, if not all, politicians bend the truth to serve themselves?
Yes, but not like Donald Trump.
I do think Trump does tell whoppers.
I've talked about this extensively. It's like Trump's on a whole new propaganda level. It's disgusting.
Well, there's a lot of people that would say that the American government, for a very, very long time, has been very dishonest with its citizens. This is something that...
Can you give me an example?
Can I give you an example?
That was stupid. I'm going to stop. Just stop.
Oh, he self-felt it, really?
But what I'm saying to you is, like, you can make it all about Trump if you like, but there's a lot of people that... You know, feel that when you guys, you're very, it very much seems that when you're talking, it feels a little
such a bad interviewer.
You feel like you're just talking about one side, and you're saying, and I don't know, I've never seen a video of you guys criticizing Democrats. I've never seen a video of you guys being introspective at all. You know, in the sense of like, you know, it just seems like you're cheerleaders for one side instead of going, hey, I'm a young guy, I want to be involved, and I'm passionate about this, but like, yeah, maybe our side isn't perfect. In this way and that way.
Yeah, be a real human being.
It's actually really hard in the space, right? Like we have like 45 seconds to record a video, keep people's attention.
The LAD or whatever he has going on in the back.
If they start hearing, like, I've actually done it before. I've criticized like Democrats, like specifically Hakeem Jeffries, and it all just went south. Like I started losing followers. Like it's bad, right? And I really want to be that person that like reaches the other side because Democrats, I mean, they're horrible at their jobs, right? They do a lot of shitty things. Although I'll vote for them all the time. But it's also hard in the space to criticize
them. That's a good.
He's owning himself so bad.
Please don't click that. Please no. Please don't.
I would say the same. I would say the same thing about most party machine politicians. I would say I don't think you're wrong. I think it's the lesser of two evils argument that people have had forever. What you just said is pretty much where the American people are. A lot of people think Democrats and Republicans are both horrible at their jobs, and the people that vote for them are still going to vote for them based on whatever self-interest they have. I don't think that's actually that crazy. What I think though is like when you're so young and you're yelling and you have people that have had so much more life experience than you, you can imagine how it looks to people that are older and you know they see you guys and they go, these kids, I mean, even though you're not kids, you're adults, you're young men, but they don't fucking have any idea what they're talking about. Maybe Harry, you obviously you're from Langley, Virginia. You have a little bit more, but then Chris, they found you in like a Waffle House. Yeah. So people, I know I did George Soros ate in Waffle Houses, but the point is like So what do you guys do? I go on Twitter sometimes, and you and the little MAGA freaks, you guys all yell at each other and stuff for 4 hours a night. Shouldn't you be doing drugs and getting laid? Isn't that more fun than screaming about Kamala Harris? Isn't this a weird way to spend your young adulthood?
It is. Yeah.
The human truths are so much deeper than just politics. Whenever I see somebody, like it's all the same type of freaks.
I was cringing in them. I'm like,
oh,
just have
with
sex,
these vacant
guys.
looks in their eyes, and they got a photo with Trump or a photo with Biden, and you're all just and I guess it's necessary because that's the next generation of fucking people that are gonna come and ruin the country. But what's the pitch for Joe Biden?
Oh man, I mean, do you want me to go down the list?
Go down the list.
All right, I won't go into detail on each one, but I think generally his presidency has been incredibly successful in terms of like one of the most productive presidents in modern American history, undoubtedly. The American Rescue Plan, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Deal, the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the PACT Act, the CHIPS Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, rejoining the WHO, historic judicial nominees, first black woman on the Supreme Court, the child tax credit.
I mean,
Who cares? Based. First black American on the Supreme Court. Who cares? Yeah. Let's go.
Medicare.
First black woman on the Supreme Court. What? Like, that's good.
I mean, but she's also like.
That's not good. What the fuck? Again, with these white people. Oh my God, please stop it. Again, the chimp brain comes in, right? The real nigga comes out and he's like, okay, yeah, no, black person on the Supreme Court. Who cares? Yes, sir. And then he's like, okay, well, actually, that's good. Why? Why even preface it? Why meet him halfway? You just said you don't care. So then why is it a good thing, right? Like if somebody were to give that fat ass a fucking popcorn and then he said, oh, that's good. Well, actually, no, it's bad. That's him lying. You know you're lying. Just double down because it's your show anyway. And these people are stupid. Just say, you know what? Black chick on the Supreme Court, I could care less. And even if I don't care less, it's even a bad thing. It's either neutral or bad. Whereas with respect to what he just said, he was like, okay, well, no, I'm indifferent. Now it's positive. That's kind of lame. Don't meet them halfway. Their perspective is really stupid. Have them meet you halfway, if anything. Whereas now you're saying, well, I don't care about this black thing. Okay, well, then what happened then? Oh, well, it's actually a good thing now. Well, where do you stand, Tim? Again, very, very bad decision making. Maybe that's why he's so obese. The point being here is that inevitably you'll look at a group of people that are somewhat indignant and somewhat, like I said, indignant and don't really know the truth. And what people do, and namely white Republicans, what they'll do is they'll fuck up and they'll be like, oh my God, I'll meet you halfway. I actually don't hate gay people, whatever. And it's like, well, bro, come on. Like, you're not proving your side to be any better. And again, when you're trying to appeal to somebody, you have to make yourself the alternative, not the other way around, right? So like if I'm trying to convince somebody to do something with me, I have to sell you on me, not sell you on like, well, I'm pretty similar to this other thing, but like different in some way that's like innocuous. That's what he's doing, and it's inevitably a problem with white people.
Just putting an extremely qualified nominee on the Supreme Court. I mean,
okay, but say that. I
think it's a combination of things.
Say like a first black woman who's an amazingly qualified, And we spoke. Otherwise, we're just checking boxes. It doesn't seem to make sense.
Well, I've spoken to her qualifications, but the point is that she is obviously far more qualified than any of the nominees that Trump put on. So it's like, do you want
How? Literally how? Bruh, really? Like, first of all, a lot of the Trump nominees were older than this black chick, as far as I know. And so, like, just on that basis alone, you would think that. And again, Ketanji Brown Jackson, what is she so good at exactly? I swear to you, as far as I know, I've not heard her name once before she got nominated. Whereas with other people, I had read the names before. Right? Like you could be reading a book about Obama's administration from like 2015 and you'd read like Neil Gorsuch decided on this case in the Federal Circuit 7 or something like that, right? Whereas in this case, you can read hundreds of books about politics like I have, contemporary politics in the last 20 years, for instance, and even in modern day, I do not hear Ketanji Brown Jackson at all. And what I will say is that if she were white, she probably wouldn't be relevant. She probably would be working as a secretary at some like Fortune 500 company or something. I don't know. The point being is that she doesn't seem that qualified, and so please sell me on that, please. Come on.
Qualified people, like political ideology aside, do you want qualified people or do you just want people who are going to rule?
Brett Kavanaugh's qualified. Amy Coney Barrett's qualified. You may disagree with them.
Amy Coney Barrett is nowhere near as qualified like Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Well, listen. Well, define qualifications in that sense.
Just time served. Like Amy Coney Barrett only had a very short amount of time actually serving as a judge, whereas Ketanji Brown Jackson had far more experience, worked more in the field prior to being a judge, and her opinions were more consistent. Like Amy Coney Barrett had a lot of like inconsistencies.
Well, now we're politicizing it. So we're just going to go with but whatever. So all of these things, the CHIPS Act, the American Rescue Plan,
that's right.
Okay, we do have massive inflation. That's right. We have an economy that is by I think the admission of Democrats doesn't work for everybody, right? I mean, this is something they keep, What has Biden really done to help people who are really struggling, whose kids do not have, maybe enough food to eat, or like
you have enough food to eat?
Because it seems like a lot of the same policies. It's just a very similar, kind of establishment Democrat, middle of the road guy. I mean, we still have a lot of people, millions and millions of them without healthcare, right? I mean, we still have. We have vast chasms of income inequality, which I imagine will persist, right?
So you're hitting him from the left here? That doesn't make sense.
Has he done anything to back down, these mega corporations from kind of eating everybody?
I mean, yeah, like he, worked to cap insulin at $35 with Eli Lilly, right? That was a big win for like pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
Unemployment's the lowest it's been in 54 years. Inflation's gone down 7 or 8 months in a row or whatever, right? So I think it's about the fact that we're stepping in the right direction. And again, it comes back to the point that like
That's just a
Trump
lie.
and that like side of politics is like not the right direction. Like we need to start moving toward sane people, and we can get to fixing those issues
Is
down
it
the road.
sane to have a proxy war with Russia and the Ukraine? Is it sane to
Let's
have a
go.
foreign
We
policy
got
that
him.
pushes China and Russia closer together? Is it sane to isolate a country that has more nuclear weapons than any other country and push them into a direction where their only friends are other enemies of America, other totalitarian regimes? Is that a sane foreign policy? Is that a sane foreign policy?
I would say that
Is it a sane cultural domestic policy to say that children have a constitutional right to puberty blocking hormones?
I mean, to both of those things. So like
Which
they're
just
obviously
came out
very-
recently.
They're very nuanced issues. Like they're very complex.
Yes.
So yes,
4-year-olds having a constitutional.
That's like him stalling for time. Like, oh, it's really complex. Like, bruh, it's like if somebody walks in on you having sex with your wife's sister or something crazy, and it's like, oh, this is a complicated process. Like, you're just coping. That is a bullshit. You're doing something really dirty here.
Oh,
No,
right
not
to
even.
block puberty.
Not
Explain
even.
the nuance.
Not even.
Let's go into the nuance.
There's obviously more to this. The more to the
There is,
conversation.
yes.
Of course. So in Ukraine, yes, we do. I mean, I can't speak for Chris, but I obviously support.
The Nazis in the Ukraine.
No, not. There's bad people everywhere. We don't
W?
support that, but we support.
But those are the people fighting the
Ukrainians.
war in the Ukraine.
Not all.
The
Not
Azov
all.
Battalion and a lot of their special forces are avowed neo-Nazis.
Not all.
Which is okay. Listen, let's just be honest about it. We're
Based-
supporting those.
exactly.
We like
Who
those
cares if they're
Nazis. They're
Nazis?
the
I don't
Nazis.
care.
It's not that we want to support Nazis. It's that an anti-democracy enemy is invading a pro-democracy ally.
Didn't Ukraine ban a lot of the pro-Russian parties after the last election? Is that democratic? Weren't there pro-Russian parties in the Ukraine
Well, there's the
that
pro-Russian-
operated and they were banned? That doesn't feel like democracy to me.
The pro-Russian parties were doing a lot of harm in Ukraine. Now, obviously, I don't agree with that. I'm not here to be a spokesman.
But this
for
idea,
Ukraine.
if you're
The fucking gesture. I'm not here to agree with that. I'm not here to agree with that, bro. Like, kill yourself. Come
I
on.
want to talk about nuance, which I love. I love
Me
nuance.
too. Me too.
I love nuance. And we're going to say, do you think America is out there? Do you think the American foreign policy is about spreading democracy and securing democracy?
I think it's more than just like preserving democracy. Obviously, I don't think.
It's a lot. It seems
a
to
lot
be a
more.
lot more.
It's a lot more. But
It's a lot more.
I think it's in the United States' interest to not have Russia get stronger. And I think that's like at the core of this. Like,
Do you
Ukraine
think-
has a lot of raw materials.
Boomer
But
take.
Russia's becoming now an ally, and they've been pushed together with China.
They were always allies. Russia
Yeah,
and
but this
China
is
were always
now,
allies.
we've isolated Russia. They've now gone and said, who's our one friend? Oh, our one friend is China. Now you're looking at this Eastern
Your
alliance.
entire
So I
banking
agree with
system
you.
is different
Obviously,
as
we want to make
compared
Russia
to
stronger,
before the
but
war,
we've also
in
put
part
Russia
because
into a
of
corner
the
by
Western
supporting
response.
Ukraine the way that we have. By not
So
going in
he's
there and
right.
urging any type of peace deal, we've put Russia in a position of two outcomes. One, they are demoralized and they leave the country in defeat. There's an almost certain coup. Putin's ousted. He knows that. Or they leave and say, sorry, our bad. Or the second option, they use nuclear weapons, or they continue to fight in Ukraine. We've done nothing to bring about any resolution here where Russia can save face and we can have some type of solution.
That's a good point,
It
actually.
seems like it's a very foolhardy foreign policy to isolate
Russia
Russia
withering
in the way
and
that we
dying
have
might be a
and
bad
basically
thing,
give
like,
them two
even for
options.
NATO and
Absolute total
whatnot.
defeat, or God forbid them using a nuclear weapon, or the continuation of this war and the death of more Ukrainians.
Well, to be clear, the United States and Ukraine have reached out to Russia to have peace talks.
Yeah.
Like they've tried extensively, and on China.
It's actually been reported that we've discouraged peace
No,
talks.
I think that's
actually
fake
been
news,
incredibly
fake news.
reported.
Not
It's incredibly
credible,
reported.
because
This is all
source,
white
right? I
people
think
shit,
Boris
bro.
Johnson
Peace
went
talks,
to
really get over that. Who
Ukraine
cares?
and talk to Zelensky or something.
Well, first of all, we're the United States. NATO, we are giving them all the money. We're giving them all the weapons. How hard are we pushing peace talks if we're literally flooding the country with weapons? We're not requiring them. We should literally say, you need to have peace talks, or we're not going to fund this war with no end in
I
sight.
think the idea was that we're not going to start talking peace until Russia agrees to stop just mass murdering civilians and committing war crimes.
It's a war, and that's unrealistic.
Okay,
you have to
then-
come to the
then-
table.
right.
Exactly. So
So
we
I understand when you're talking about sanity, you say Donald Trump's a lunatic. I might agree with you, but I see 4 years of Donald Trump. We're not in a lot of foreign entanglements. We're not on the verge of a real problem with Russia and China, to be honest. I'm seeing right now this bellicose foreign policy led by neocons, war hawks, who are now all on the Democratic side. Bill Kristol hates Donald Trump. All of these guys that supported the Iraq war hate Donald Trump. They are now all apparatchiks for Biden's administration. They're on MSNBC. They are pushing war. They are pushing the continuation of not only this war, they're pushing maybe further conflicts with China. So to me, when you talk about sanity, I say to myself, that seems insane.
But to be clear, it's like the idea that we're pushing Russia and China closer together.
See, they don't even acknowledge that point. They just got fucking obliterated on that fact. They don't even argue that Donald Trump was great on foreign policy because they know deep down that they're full of crap.
Is not, I don't think, founded in fact. Russia and China have always been close together, and China have specifically come out very publicly and said that we disavow this. We want Russia to be peaceful. We want an end to this war. Now, might there be more?
Why are you taking the Chinese at the face value? It's evident that people might say something publicly to save face at the UN or whatever, but will conduct themselves in a different way. So to assume that Russia being isolated from the West in such a way that is provocative, evocative, and defensive, even depending on who you ask, and to then claim that they're not going to get closer to the Chinese and the North Korean by proxy, just from an economical standpoint, is just completely asinine. So for him to say that is either naive or really retarded, and retarded also in a malicious sense.
Trade, possibly. But I think that we can't just sit while other countries are getting invaded. Like if we're just like, well, we don't really want to get involved. Let's just have
What
all
is the
these
American
innocent countries.
interest in the Ukraine, and what is our
What is our vital national security interest in the Ukraine? What is our vital national security? And I remember, I'm old enough to remember when people were going, we don't really have a vital national security interest in Iraq. We shouldn't spend 20 years where defense contractors get rich and cities like Detroit fall. As you said, we have all of these problems domestically in our country. And these wars enrich a small percentage of the population at the expense of a lot of people in this country that need help. Are those billions of dollars that are going to the Ukraine not better served in America?
Well, I think that we can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? So we can address foreign policy while also addressing domestic policy in places that really needs it. And that's why I think Joe Biden's been great. He's been able to do both at the same time.
He's done neither, but go on. He's done more domestically. I think more, if your argument domestically, he's done more. His foreign policy seems a little bit like a mess.
I don't know if
I think they're going to make the same deal in the Ukraine that they could have made a year ago with a lot less bloodshed and a lot less death. And if that happens, it's going to seem like we unnecessarily helped prolong this conflict.
I don't know.
Do you think the Ukraine is going to win this war?
It's going to be like another 5 years of
bloodshed. And that doesn't seem fun with a nuclear power.
5 years? First of all, I don't know who told them it was going to last another 5. That's unrealistic. But even still, that's not really a sexy option. And again, politically, I don't even know why they're running with this narrative of like, oh, it's going to take another 5 years of bloodshed. What? Really? Over what exactly? It's a complete stalemate. It's basically like the Western Front, like from like 1915 to 16. Not a lot of difference in the front between, like, let's say the French and the Germans in respect to World War One. And so to then conjure up an image of like a stalemate for 5 years, not very sexy. Again, how are you appealing? This is titled Joe Breezy. This is typical textbook, like, oh, we're going to keep things kind of the same, trust the plan, we're going to fix all your problems, walk in, chew gum at the same time. Not really something that you can really sell the public on. And people like Bill Clinton in the first iteration of this neoliberal kind of triangulation approach that was popularized by Tony Blair in the 90s. You know, Bill Clinton at least had swag, had clout, got head in the Oval Office like a real nigga, whereas Joe Breezy is too fucking old to get it hard at this point.
You know, it's the way the cards fall. Like he said, Russia is, invading a democratic state at the end of the day. What do you want us to do? Just not involve ourselves? We did that once, in the 40s, and then, Germany was on the beaches of Dunkirk, right? So we just have to make a decision.
Listen, in the very beginning, we did involve us. We did a lot of things.
What? So what was the analogy? Guys, pay attention. What the hell was that?
We did this, we did that. Right. What we are now doing is we're now essentially fighting a proxy war. If NATO it's NATO weaponry that the Ukrainians are fighting, it gets very murky as to whether Russia and NATO are fighting a war. And so to me, I will drop both of you off in Poland. I will drop both of you off in Poland, and you can go and yell into your phones and be like, Vladimir Putin, I'm here with the Nazis in the Ukraine, and you better watch out because we're about to fuck you up. Gen Z doesn't care. That's why we're here in Kyiv. And you can do things with Zelensky. Yeah. I actually like both of you. I disagree with you on a lot of things, but I do like you. You're cool dudes. I think you're a little nuts. I think the content is a little much. Are you planning on just doing this through the entire election of just screaming in your phone?
I think so.
I think like there's room for some cool projects. So we really don't even have it figured out yet, like what we're gonna do in 2024. But that's kind of the plan as of now.
Okay.
Yeah, just day by day, man.
Where can people follow you? I know everybody's screaming and yelling at you now, but where can they follow you? If people want to follow you, if you want to hear Gen Z's.
Yeah, I was about to say, how many of your followers actually want to follow us?
I don't know. Some of them might. I can't tell you what they'll say to you. But some of them might want to follow you.
Well, I'm on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all Harry J. Sisson. Yeah. And you can come.
Again, these stick tweets are on all the platforms getting boosted by the algorithms, whereas you have people that are utterly just banned, that are on Rumble, that are on Odyssey, people that are the opposite side of the spectrum, but a lot more intelligent, obviously,
you guys are like Apple Bohemian Girls screaming
generally.
Why did you invite me?
And even people like me that are on YouTube, I do not benefit from the same algorithmic boost as compared to other people. And so typically, if I were a liberal and that were the branding and that's what I used for the channel and whatnot, if I were something for Joe Biden, I'd be like 5 times as big at this point. And that's because of the way that the algorithm works. You use certain words that you can't really avoid using, and you get effectively shadow banned in a major way. And I have friends that suffer the same thing. And so basically, yeah, we're still on YouTube, but we're in such a perverted way where we struggle to monetize stuff. I don't monetize virtually any of my videos, in part because of this fact. And so there's very little upside to being a right-winger on YouTube insofar as it's like, to kind of evangelize your message. It's kind of like preaching to the choir because of how algorithmically suppressed people are on the right wing. Whereas people like this tend to find themselves all over the place on TikTok and whatnot. Shameful, honestly, because they're lying about a lot of facts. And not only that, but they're just wrong straight up and they have no sauce like I do.
Right. I respect the hell out of you guys for coming on. David Hogg won't come on.
Likewise, well,
a lot of people won't come on. I respect you guys for coming on.
I think not enough people, like as much as like I really like Democrats and I like Joe Biden, not enough people will like just go out. They want to stay in the bubble, right?
What do you like about Joe Biden? Is he even alive? Does he even know he's alive?
I mean, he does.
What do you like? I mean, I know some people like him. Like Louis C.K. and me talk all the time, and Louis actually likes him. But I mean, he's kind of folksy and old, I guess. That's cool.
But I mean, at the end of the day, he's productive, right? And he passes good policy that's good for young people and objectively good for.
Yeah, I think the nuclear war will be great for young people.
Yes, well,
there's nothing that young people are going to like more than than the nuclear war.
Russia wouldn't be so stupid. They're not going to be that stupid.
I hope they're not that stupid.
I don't think they are.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I hope
middle ground.
Well, the middle ground is like I agree with the idea that the hope that this does not get there, but I do think it's a foolhardy policy that we are pursuing. American government, Biden's government, is actually starting to question it internally, and they're leaking on the side of the Ukraine project. And I think we're starting to see why that money wasn't used in America.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just have to see what happens and let it play out. You know, it's been proven time and time again that Ukraine's doing a lot better than people thought. And
they listen. I will say one thing about the Ukraine: they're tougher. They're tough motherfuckers. And listen, I didn't want them to obviously be invaded, and I would love if Russia got out of there, and I'd love if everything worked out and was peaceful. I'm just looking at the world as it is and not the way that I would want it to be.
Sure.
Right. Well,
I know that those two countries have a deep and complex history, and it's not as easy. And there are things in those countries that are not. It's not easy. We can't throw it all into a TikTok or a meme.
Right. And but like I think it's forgotten that the however 44 billion or however much money we've sent to Ukraine, like that's the entire reason that Russia's not knocking on Poland right now, right? Like,
no, it's not.
Yeah,
No,
it's all the West. It's
as
all
if they would invade Poland.
It's one of the greatest.
The reality of the situation that arming Ukraine is preventing Russia from taking over the entire world is this neocon talking
no,
that they're going to knock over Poland and then they're going to knock over every country that's ever existed.
I said they'd be knocking on the doors of Poland if we didn't give them.
Well, we with NATO expanding are encircling Russia with missiles, and if that was being done to us, if there were countries if China had missiles in Mexico, you would be damn sure we would respond.
I know, but I don't think that's just like objectively not looking at the fact that like all those countries we started expanding on their borders. I mean, they're free to make their own decisions. They all asked to join NATO. We're not just.
But we have to look at the purpose of what NATO is. We have to look at how Russia will respond. You have to look at the real politics of like how Russia will respond to certain things, right?
Right.
And the reality is the purpose of NATO was very clear after World War II, but is becoming a bit less clear right now in the sense of what is the cost-benefit analysis of encircling a nuclear power led by Vladimir Putin, an autocrat who wants to preserve his sphere of influence in the world. So that's my...
But the thing about NATO is, like, I think it's a little hyperbolic to be so critical of NATO, given the fact that NATO's entire mission is peace. Like, we're not encircling Russia to be like, haha, we got you now. We're saying...
Yes, well, there is part of it. Listen, NATO's entire mission is peace as defined by the American empire, meaning that peace, meaning the American empire does whatever it wants and countries like Russia don't. Now, that's fine coming from guys that sit here in America. But if you're Vladimir Putin, he's not looking at NATO's mission as being peace. Russia's a country that's been consistently invaded throughout their history. They have bought many ads on this show.
Okay.
And no, but I'm saying like at the end of the day, when you say NATO's mission is peace, that's bullshit talking points.
It's not.
Lofty George Washington University first year poli-sci major crap. That's like saying America's mission is democracy. This isn't true. It's control, it's power. And if you're Vladimir Putin and you're an autocrat, you got to deal with. You can't talk to Russia the way you talk to Iraq. Russia's not Iraq.
Yeah.
You can't go in there, put Putin in a hole, and here. Listen, I like you. It's been a half hour.
Damn,
we've done a half hour.
It's been a half hour.
Wow.
It's been a half hour. My new special, Tim Dillon, live from St. Petersburg. We're selling tickets right now. It's hugely successful. We're doing it at the Opera House where they do the Bolshoi Ballet, it's going to be beautiful, and I'm very excited. There is a little bit of a language barrier.
Just a little bit.
I'm obviously joking. I'm on the road, timdillcomedy.com. Follow Harry J. Sisson.
That's right.
And Chris.
Maori.
Chris, what?
Dot Maori. My last name, Maori.
Where? Chris Maori on what? TikTok?
TikTok and Twitter. Jesus. You can see me get ratioed on Twitter.
Yeah, get ratioed.
Just destroy.
I'm gonna ratio you somehow.
You could, dude.
I'm gonna have all my people. No, I mean, listen, it's politics. Everybody's fucking nuts. That's the point, right? All right.
Okay, guys, so that is going to be the podcast. What do you think? Comment down below. I'll give you my summation real quick. In my purview, I feel as if the podcast was productive insofar as it made them look bad, and we'd love to see them suffer. In fact, I got to tell you what, in respect to how these people are perceived, common days, we'll look at people that are young, and we'll see them as kind of like benign, and that, oh, wow, they're starry-eyed. These people are actually cynical. They're going around and spreading, and, again, they know better than this, but they're saying stuff out of context like, oh, the unemployment's the lowest it's been in 54 years, and other stuff that's completely not true. And even if it is kind of true, it's also with bad stats. To say that we have the same unemployment that we did under 2019 Trump is just completely asinine. That's not realistic at all. That makes no sense to anybody with a brain. To say that the economy is anywhere analogous to what it was before is just a lie. And for these people to say it like that, it's just duplicitous. And so these people aren't going to get the benefit of the doubt because they're young, because number one, they're lying about a lot of details, and they know they are. And on top of that, I'm younger than both of them, and so they don't really get that excuse for me. Now, granted, most people that are younger than them, like me, are dumber than they are, but in this case, it's the exact opposite. And so right now, I'm calling them out on their bullshit because they deserve it. And when that Chris guy said that, oh, I'm getting ratioed on Twitter, it should be more than just getting ratioed. People should be making videos roasting the guy in respect to his political positions and how effeminate he can be at times. And, penultimately, I will mention that I need to read the comment section. I think that'll be kind of funny. And overall, I think that Tim Dillon is kind of like a centard, definitely wishy-washy on the issues. I guess he wants to stay platformed, and you have to pull that routine. A key example in that case would be like somebody like Aiden Ross from a couple months ago, or Jadion, people that are vaguely are cognizant of the fact that Donald Trump is better than Joe Biden, but will not outright say it to kind of appease certain factions of the political movement. Think of them as like the opposite of Bill Maher, where Bill Maher is like a liberal leaning center, whereas these are people that are right wing leaning center. Anyway, the point being is that these twins over here, the fraternity of dotards for Biden, are not really doing a good job for the DNC. And if they're not getting paid by the DNC, the reason why is because they're actually not advancing the cause of Joe Biden 2024. They're not doing a good job. And inevitably, what that will do is it'll discourage the youth. They'll see these, Epslers, and they'll see them as fruitcakes and as idiots who don't work out, people that are, completely twig-like and anemic in their response, who cannot debate themselves out of a wet paper bag, and will inevitably make the youth look more towards the right and say, well, people that like Lalo, for instance, I'll even use myself as an example, is probably going to come off as more masculine, as more competent as an adult while still being 19, rather than these people who, on the other hand, are completely just indignifiable, that are people that are yelling at the microphone, yelling at the phone, trying to appeal to the TikTok atmosphere. But in reality, I don't need to yell at my phone to be right about the issues. I can have these coherent ideas and people can listen to them. And I appreciate anybody who stuck by, and comment down below what you actually thought. And inevitably, these comments are also very truth-telling. This guy says, it's crazy how much gayer these kids are than Tim. And that's really say something, because the Tim guy is not really a paragon of masculinity. He looks like a soy-filled Ethan Ralph mixed with James Corden. And yet even still, he's mogging these guys that are 15 years younger than him. Why? Because this generation has a cohort of people that are so weak, and it's utterly kind of depressing to watch and somewhat tragic in a way. Anyways, see y'all in the next video. Bye.